Attention, attention, family. Cheesed off by high toy prices.
Holy felines, Batman!
I smell a cat, Robin.
Yeah.
Paws off the customers, Catwoman. Listen, folks, only at Zellers are you protected by...
The law of Toyland. Nobody beats Zeller's prices on toys. Nobody.
Well said, Robin. You're protected at Zellers because the lowest price is the law.
So picture this if you can. You're a Canadian kid, it's the early 1980s, you have an Atari 2600, and you're looking for some new games to play because, let's be real here, you got an Atari 2600. There's always more games to play, but as a kid, you don't have the money to buy the games, so you've usually got to wait till it's your birthday or Christmas, and you got to beg your parents for them. Well, here's the bonus about being Canadian. There's this store called Zellers. It's one of those, outlet stores, and your mom ends up bringing you there. She's shopping around, and while she does that, you come across these games that you've never seen before in your life. Games like Busy Police and Challenger, whose cover art looks suspiciously like the Ghostbusters, but really that just makes it more enticing for you. Here's the best part about these games. They're only $7 each, so it's not that hard to convince your parents to buy them, and maybe you've even saved up enough money to buy them yourself. Excitedly, you get home, you pop in Busy Police to your Atari, and wait a minute, this looks oddly familiar, and that's because it is. This game you got is actually just a pirated copy of the Activision game Keystone Capers, with the only difference being that they got rid of the Activision logo, but they kept the rainbow because Zellers, surprisingly, was pretty progressive and ahead of its time when it came to gay pride. Then to your shock, as you put the other cartridges into your Atari, you realize that it wasn't just Busy Police. I mean, they aren't all Keystone Capers, but each one is just another Atari game that already existed, but now it's being sold as some kind of Zellers exclusive, and you just wasted all of $30 that you had to your name as a child on these garbage games. So what gives with this? Like, it's clearly not legal to do this. Imagine today if you went into a store and you bought a game that was called Spaceman Shooter, and the cover of it was the Avengers, but when you put it into your Xbox it turned out just to be Halo 3. I mean, yeah, Halo 3 is a fun game, but that's not what you thought you were going to buy. Well, I guess that's the 1980s. It was a different time, and for some reason a actual legitimate store could not only sell but also manufacture these rip-off games. Like, it's not like those weird 1,000,001 cartridges that you find. These are things that Zellers were actively trying to make themselves. They had Taiwan manufacture these cartridges, and then they would slap on some fake cover art, unless I missed the part where Zellers bought the Ghostbusters, in which case, sorry, they do own the Ghostbusters, and that wasn't fake cover art. But I'm pretty sure they don't own the Ghostbusters. And then they sold them as Zellers exclusives, for dirt cheap. Now, there were only 18 released titles of these sketchy, not at all legal games, but Zellers was forced by Atari to stop at that point, and it seems after that they ended up stopping. Unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of details on these cartridges, but why would Zellers even do this? I mean, they're an actual large company, and well, the reason's pretty simple. They were able to sell these games and then get 100% of the profit without having to give any to anyone, and that's a pretty sweet deal, although completely illegal. I just find it so baffling. Like, imagine going into a Target and they've got these cartridges of like Nintendo Switch games, and it's called like Jumpman Jr., and you put it in and it's just like Mario Maker. It's just not something you would see these days inside of like an actual legitimate store. Probably something that I'd see in some kind of little sketchy corner store. Now, of course, if Zellers did want to keep all the money to themselves, they could have just made their own games, but of course that would require a lot of time and money, which is a lot more effort than just getting someplace in Taiwan to clone a bunch of games and remove the watermark for you. All you really have to do after you get the cartridge is stick the Ghostbusters on it, and bam, those things will sell like hotcakes. Also, I mean, it's obvious, but when you outsource something to Taiwan, you're going to be saving a lot more than you would if you had them manufactured in Canada, and so they could keep prices of the cartridges pretty darn low by the $7 price they seem to be going for at the time. Basically going for the idea of selling a large quantity of games rather than selling any quality games. And that makes it less and less surprising that a company that did shady stuff like this is now out of business.